Welcome back, and today we're going to be doing a massive deep dive spoiler into the first 4 episodes of Paradise Season 2 over on Hulu. If you happen to not be caught up on all the episodes yet, go ahead and hit pause and come back once you finish. Or if you don't mind a couple of spoilers, then, stay here and then we'll get through those and then you can go back and watch the episode anyways, and I'm sure you will enjoy it even more. Because today we're going to be talking about the expanded world of Paradise, the new survivors, and we're going to talk about that gut punch of episode 4 that we got. Season kicks off with a massive creative leap, leaving the safety of the bunker behind and showing us the surface world. It immediately signals to me that the scope of this story has evolved. So today we're going to be talking about Sinatra's new agenda, the new factions, and we're going to talk about this new ambitious direction that the show seems to be heading in. And the direction that it's heading in seems to be different from the direction that it seems that we were heading in season 1, because where we had that tight, claustrophobic, political mystery thriller, now we have what seems to be the early stages of a sci-fi mystery. And at least this time, we're not inside of a mountain because they've blown the doors completely off of that. We pick up with Secret Service agent Xavier Collins, and he is played by the magnificent Sterling K. Brown, who survives a plane crash that we learned in the end of episode 1. We all know from the first season that he is on a desperate search for his wife, Terry, who was last seen or heard from in Atlanta. But rather than following this straight line path, the show, in my opinion, brilliantly takes us on a different path through the horizon. We're introduced to Annie, who is played by Shailene Woodley, surviving at Elvis's Graceland. And this post-apocalyptic world building is fantastic and stunning. To me, it's balancing Xavier's surface survival with the simmering political fallout back in the bunker. And in my opinion, I think this makes for a very compelling narrative going forward. If there's one thing that we thought we could expect from Paradise is more locked room political maneuvering. But early on in this season, we're starting to see that this show is evolving beyond its original premise. Because now the immediate danger is the unforgiving wasteland, basically giving us a complete tonal shift in genres. It moves away from that classic investigative structure, and it starts to move into that sprawling survival epic adventure type. And to me, it's a huge swing that drastically expands the lore of this franchise. And where we thought we were going to be solving this simple murder mystery, now it seems that it's all about the survival of humanity as a whole. But let's talk about one of the boldest narrative choices that they chose early in this season. The premiere episode spends a massive amount of time with Annie being the focal point of that episode. We get her entire backstory leading all the way up to how she got to Graceland. And we also learn her dynamic with this mysterious traveler named Link. But I appreciate the fact that they took an entire episode to introduce us to a very new character. I think taking an entire episode to introduce us to a new character that we haven't seen before is a massive risk, in my opinion. But they pulled it off very, very well in this episode, and they didn't risk anything by not fully reconnecting us with everybody else first. Honestly, this episode and the way it plays into how season 1 ended was really, really good. Seeing how episode 1 played out and how it ended, it honestly helps ground this world in the human emotion, in my opinion. And I think that's a better direction for shows in general, but especially this show to go, instead of just focusing on all of the action or all of the mystery. Like, it gives the show more depth. But as we see on the surface, it's not just some empty wasteland with dead bodies. There are heavily armed factions in this world. We meet our character Link and his group of bikers and the big group that he's riding. But aside from that, we meet Link and we also meet Geiger. I'm not sure who's the real leader here. I'm assuming it's Link, but it could be Geiger. But the big question here is, how do they connect to all of the people in the mountain, especially the people that are the elite ones? Through flashbacks, we find out that Link isn't just some random person that's introduced to the show. He was actually tied to Sinatra's husband, who just happened to be a quantum scientist. And that's basically how we get to Link and Geiger and their entire crew and why they're marching towards the mountain in general in Colorado. Because they're not just going there for fun or just to try to find somewhere to survive. They are going there for a highly specific mission. And we learn in the episode through hearing through the door that their mission is to go there to murder Alex. And I admit, when I first heard that, I'm like, who is Alex? Who is Alex? And as we get further into the season, I'm sure we're going to learn who Alex is, but I think Alex is a machine. You guys let me know down in the comments who you think Alex is, but I am pretty sure Alex is a machine or a code name for a machine or some type of tech. But meanwhile, the mystery inside the bunker is increasing. Look at Sinatra. She goes from being a pragmatic survivor in season 1, and now in season 2, opening stages, she is surviving an assassination attempt. And what are her motives? Who the fuck knows? Because they are deeply layered within this story, and every time you think that we're going to learn a little bit about where her motives might be, we learn absolutely nothing. And I love it. But we did learn that she is siphoning power off to a separate location. And I think we're going to learn that that's a new bunker or a separate bunker. But she is siphoning power off to this location for some secret project that she's working on that nobody knows about. Through flashbacks, we see her willing and dealing a little bit and acquiring different types of tech and even checking on Alex or whatnot. But we never actually learn, at this moment at least, it's not a what Alex is. The show is meticulously laying breadcrumbs, all leading to Sinatra's master plan. And I guarantee you it is probably something massive that we're probably going to learn in season 3, or we may get some revelation of it before the end of this season, but we're definitely going to know what her big plan is by the time we get to season 3. But I will say in this season so far, one of the most fascinating dynamics that we have is the Xavier and Annie dynamic. You know, she rescues him, she takes him back to Graceland, she nurses him up, and she also holds him at gunpoint and demands that he takes her to Colorado, but for obvious reasons since she's big pregnant. And obviously this completely derails his mission to go to Atlanta to go find his wife, Terry, because she's holding him at gunpoint and basically demanding, hey, you're going to take me to Colorado so I can go meet her with my baby daddy, Link, and we're going to go start a family somewhere there, even though he's about to go murder Alex and she knows nothing about what that plan is. But I will say, watching a Secret Service agent having to bend his will and kind of answer to the demands of a surviving civilian is a very interesting dynamic in this scenario. It forces Xavier off of his path, but at the same time, it brilliantly intertwines two storylines into the main storyline. Or honestly, I guess you could look at it as two major storylines, but it's all going to braid back into the one major storyline as we get towards the end. But one of the biggest reveals that we've gotten this season, and we cannot go on without talking about it, are the visions that are being shared between Xavier and Link. All the first 4 episodes basically take a little bit of time showing that they're both experiencing whatever this psychic vision, maybe a future vision of whatever they're getting ready to experience together. But at this point, it doesn't seem like they know each other at all. And the visions are of them walking down what seems to be some hallway or whatever. It's probably the second bunker more than likely, but they're walking down there. Link is looking back at Xavier, and Xavier finally puts all the clues together once he sees Link's student ID that Annie is holding. But at this point, I will say the emotional storytelling of this season mixed with the flashback structure is doing a great job of working overtime to elevate whatever genre that we're in, because we're in several. We're in at least 4 genres. And what I mean by that is some of the cutbacks to the past, like the meeting with Xavier and Terry, it gives more depth to the show and it gives us that emotional tie-in that keeps us connected to these characters and the season as a whole. But it also gives us a glimpse into everybody's lives pre-Doomsday. Instead of being some grim survivalist show, these flashbacks humanize everybody, in my opinion, and gives the audience a sense of what these characters have lost and the weight that all of these characters are probably carrying. And that also explains why they're fighting so hard, at least some of them, to get back what they lost. And what did you guys think about that bombshell episode 4? I will say that it caught me completely off guard. The one thing we finally see Xavier realizing somewhat who Link is, and as soon as he does, Annie goes into labor. And when you think back to all of the lessons and the things that Xavier was saying to Annie throughout this episode, basically telling her not to give up. You could trust people. You know, the world is not as terrible as it may seem. It gives all of that emotional drama towards the end of the episode when she doesn't make it after the birth of her daughter. And it's just another layer to this story to add on top, because now Xavier made a friend, somebody that saved him and nursed him back to health. She had a baby and now left him somewhat by himself. Well, even though the baby was offered to be cared for by the people in the house, but he's now left with a newborn in this devastated world. It is a terrible situation to be in, but the emotional depth that they're adding to this season with things like this is great, because it makes the story a little bit deeper. It's not just about getting to Atlanta and finding my wife Terry. No, now it's I do have to get to Atlanta and find my wife Terry. I also have to get back to Colorado and drop this baby off to Link. But how am I going to survive all while doing this and protecting this child and hopefully protecting my wife? This has to be one man's personal version of hell, in my opinion. This has to be what hell looks like if it were sitting on the surface world. It would look like this. So the big question is, where does the story go from here, especially leading into season 3 that we all learned this week or last week is going to be the final season. So I think the back half of this season has to start setting up some type of end game. So my first prediction, and I've been talking about this and calling it ever since they dropped the word quantum, is something that's going to be happening with time. We're clearly going to take some type of sci-fi pivot and add another genre in there, but we're going to take a sci-fi pivot and we're going to, in some way or fashion, explore time. Project Alice is clearly not a person, but it's obviously a thing or a machine, in my opinion. And we know that it's tied to quantum tech. And I'm assuming that this quantum tech maybe can bend time or manipulate time in some type of way. Think back for a second. When Sinatra's husband, I think his name was Henry, when he was sitting in the bar and he first was talking about, do you think you're meant to be here? And then he expresses the same line again when he's in a home right before he gets murdered. That foresight, in my opinion, went way beyond just a gut feeling. What if the second bunker and the power that Sinatra is siphoning off is to create some type of machine that can alter reality in some type of way? I think that would lead to season 3 being some type of race against time to prevent Sinatra from altering reality. But do they really want to do that? Because from the way it was explained, this world is going to not die, but it's going to be a while before anybody's going to walk on land again, on the surface land, not the bunker land. So would they really want to? I guess it depends on what she's trying to alter the reality or alter the time. Or what do you guys think? Do you guys think that they're trying to time jump into the future, which I don't think? Do you think there is some type of maybe going back to the past because Sinatra's husband clearly knew, in my opinion, that he was getting ready to die? He wouldn't have been asking the questions that he was asking if he didn't know he was about to die. Hell, he pulled out a tissue and handed it to the guy and told him that he was going to have a nosebleed. So that clearly tells me that he knew this was coming. That was an Easter egg or a seed or whatever you want to call it laid there. But he knew that this was coming. And that was a hint into whatever Alex is. And I believe it is some type of time machine that is going to somehow take them backward. I mean, season 3 could also be something simple like everybody gets to the bunker doors somehow simultaneously, but that's not going to happen. And they demand they open the doors or they blow the doors open in some type of way. And then the bunker people meet the surface people, and then there's some type of collision there and they figure things out from there. But that's probably a little bit too messy and a little bit just that's not the direction they're going. Yeah, they probably could go that direction, and there may be a small piece in this, but they're going this time travel direction. There is no reason to introduce quantum tech into this show if they're not going into a time travel direction. Well, I guess I should say a time something direction, but I believe it's going to be time travel backwards. And with that, I would say so far through the first 4 episodes of this season, I am highly satisfied. This show is really, really great. It's moving in a great direction. It sucks that it's ending with season 3. I was hoping that it would go a little bit longer, but when somebody has a complete story in mind, and no matter how long or short it is, I believe it's going to be good because they know exactly what they want to do. So that tells me they know exactly how they want to execute this, which means I think we're going to get a lot of good episodes coming up. They are taking some huge risk with some of the characters and with some of the genre shifting, but keep it coming because I think it's good. So what did you guys think of the episode, the twist, and everything that's happening in season 2 so far? Please let me know what you think down in the comments, and also let me know what you think about whatever Alex is. Do you think it's a person? I doubt it is, but what do you think Alex is? And also, don't forget, we're pushing hard for that 500 subscriber milestone. Yes, we're trying to get higher than that, but we have to start somewhere. So we're going to start with 500. So please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, before you forget, please turn on your notifications. That way you can catch every episode that I drop the minute that it drops. And until next time, I'm not sure if I'm going to do an episode 5 or if I'm going to do maybe a last 4 episode like finale or entire season breakdown. But depending on what episode 5 brings us, I may come back with an episode 5 review and see where we're going from there. So until episode 5 drops, I will see you then. There's more content coming this week, and keep coming back for that. And please don't forget to like and subscribe again. Thank you all for coming. I truly appreciate it. Thank you and bye.